Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jessica. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Hamlet of Beavercreek's Town Hall Community Meeting. We're calling this meeting to order at 7 p.m. It is being held virtually via Zoom. So I ask everyone, our board and our citizens, to use the raise hand feature if you have a question or comment, of course, and we'll call you in order. It is January 26th of 2022, and I will quickly do introductions. My name is Tammy Stevens, and I chair the Hamlet board. Our vice chair is Bill Merchant. If you would wave, thanks, Bill. And our treasurer, Cheryl Buchert, you'll wave, thank you. And our secretary and corresponding secretary, Jessica Cernak. We also have directors at large, Mark Hilliard, Joe Mattio. Who am I missing? Oh, Kenny's not on yet. He'll be on in a little bit. You'll see Kenny popping on here in a minute, Kenny Cernak. And then Jack Hip is, you can't, he raised his little yellow hand. So there's Jack. Very, very good. We also have additional attendees, as you'll see their faces, but you'll be introduced to them momentarily. All right, let's start our meeting with our first guest speaker, Watch Commander Lieutenant Marcus Mendoza often drops in and gives us an update on what's going on in the Beavercreek area from the Sheriff's Department, and also what's going on at the Sheriff's Department, and then he'll take any questions or certainly concerns. So Lieutenant Mendoza, welcome again, and thank you, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I do appreciate and enjoy coming to these, so thanks for having me. For this meeting, I talked to our crime analyst and looked at some stats for the Hamlet of Beavercreek. There wasn't anything that was standing out, so I was going to kind of skip over statistics for this meeting and just kind of talk about some things that are going on around the sheriff's office. But when I'm done, happy to answer any questions. So this, we wrapped up 2021, which was another long year just for us, just like it was for everybody else. Staffing, I know that I've talked about staffing before at these meetings, and it again has been a challenge at the sheriff's office, but we are forging ahead. So I have some positive news to report. For the year 2021, we hired 30 deputies, which is a lot. And we're keeping our foot on the gas pedal and pressing forward. And our goal is for another 30 deputies for 2022. So that should be a significant impact at the sheriff's office and obviously for Clackamas County. Those 30 positions that we hired last year were not levy positions that I spoke on, I think, on one of my other visits. But the 30, some of the 30 that'll be in 2022, we will see some of those levy positions, which are the added positions that we're getting. So last year was completely working on, if you want to call that normal attrition, people retiring and moving on to do other careers, and just replacing those. Something to keep in mind that we're always challenged with in law enforcement is when we hire someone that's brand new, it takes on average a year and a half to get them to the point where we've hired them to the point where they're, in a patrol car, responding to calls, showing up at your house if you're summoning law enforcement. So it takes quite a while, a year and a half, to really see that return where they're working on their own. So in the meantime, they're attending the academy, doing in-house training, working with a training officer and whatnot. So we'll start seeing some of those benefits hopefully this summer of all those bodies that we're hiring, and we can start filling some of our other vacancies. Everyone's running short in not only just patrol, but detectives and the administration. We're running short on lieutenants. So we'll be filling those spots here in the next couple of years as we're seeing those positive gains. So I'm really happy about that, really optimistic. So that's a big deal. And yeah, that's pretty much the update I want to talk about. That was kind of a big deal. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
I see we have 12 guests this
Oh,
evening.
perfect.
That's absolutely fabulous. And, I think it just popped to 13. It did, 13. And Amy Manning has a question. Would you be kind enough, Jessica, to bring her over? And go ahead and ask your question, Amy.
I've got new things in my ears and it sounds weird. So hopefully I don't sound weird. Hi. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the perception or the rumors that there's been going around that crime, in particular theft, is increasing, and that there's homeless camps somewhere in Beavercreek. Any feedback on any of that? There's a lot of rumors and things that are going around on Facebook.
Sure.
That has people really kind of on edge and somewhat, in some instances, a little bit hyper vigilant. So that's all I wanted to ask about.
Sure. A couple things I'd like to touch on that. So so I don't forget, I'll start off with this one. So I've noticed, so I also supervised our contract with the city of Estacada, and we have this type of issue out there as well that I brought up to the city council meeting, where we see, or I hear from people from the community a lot about, I saw this on Facebook, or I heard this on social media. And all of that may be true. Some of it may not be true. And so what I would ask is that if if somebody that's saying that they were the victim of a theft or a victim of any crime, to make sure that they're calling the sheriff's office and not just letting their neighbors know on Facebook, because that's one challenge that we got to get past. We may see that post, or someone at the sheriff's office may see that post, but it's not how we go out searching for victims of crimes. We need them to call us so that we can respond, so we can take the report, we can document what's happening and track it, and obviously hopefully solve that problem. So that's one big ask. Now, and then rumors spread on social media, and so that makes it tough. We've dealt with a massive amount of rumors during the wildfires, and it was really tough to nail down like exactly what was happening and what wasn't happening, and a lot turned out to just be mainly rumors. So with that said, that's kind of the downside of social media. I appreciate social media. I appreciate how it works and how it connects communities and individuals. But there are some downsides when it comes to misinformation. As far as
have you heard of any, the one in particular that I kind of saw several times was out like Upper Highland and Ridge Road area? Is that sparking anything that you've heard, or just was very strange? That's
not, but I'll jot that down and I'll look into it and talk to the crime analysis person. Then my plan is to be back next month.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
My understanding is Lower Highland. And
was it lower? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And that was the homeless folks, which is really far out to be.
That's very
homeless,
far out.
But
yeah. So I'll look into that, and I will be sure to speak to that specifically next month. If there's a homeless camp out in that area, it's pretty far, because generally the homeless populations like to stay near where they're getting resources. Like we're seeing a lot. I'm sitting on a panel right now dealing with the Newell Creek Canyon out there in Oregon City, which I'm sure all of you are seeing parts of that as well. But it's because the resources are there. If there is a homeless camp out in the Lower Highland area, it's probably someone or a few people that do want to be isolated. I will look into that and find out. I haven't heard of or seen anything on any uptick in criminal activity because of that or in that area. So, but I'll look into that for sure.
Great, thank you. And I see Aubrey Carter has a question. Amy, thank you so much.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you for coming on, Aubrey.
Okay, I'm not going to turn on my video because we were COVID infected, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's been one of those days.
Thank you.
Anyway, you were saying that you haven't noticed an uptick in crime, and I know social media can run rampant with accusations, and you tend to get more vigilante type of responses. But it has been a great resource for many of us locals because we've been sharing information. I mean, from coyotes to cougars to thefts, and I personally have noticed an increase in theft. So that's the one thing I always ask people is, have you made a police report? There has been neighbors who have lost four-wheelers and vehicles, and it's yeah. So my question to you is, you say there isn't an increase, but what I've witnessed is that there has been a lot more people reporting things going missing, break-ins, things of that nature. Yeah, so I don't know.
We'll continue,
Yeah.
please, Aubrey, with encouraging them to report to the sheriff's department. That's exactly what I do, and that's the right avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's a good point, and I'm not saying that there isn't an increase. There's a lot of factors that go into that. If somebody hasn't reported that, then I can't report that there's an increase.
And
so
that's fair enough.
That's the number one
But
thing, yeah.
there's a lot of people who have also been noticing, all these vehicle thefts that are taking place in Portland, and people are noticing those vehicles are slowly filtering down this way to Malala. There have been instances of these vehicles found in homeless camps. I've seen several of these vehicles and have tried to call into the police and inform them that this vehicle does not have tags. It doesn't have tags. The VIN is covered up. Nobody comes out. I had one sitting in an apartment complex. I mean, it is Clackamas County, Canby Police. It was in that area. But this instance happened in Canby per se. But what do you do? What are we supposed to do when we're coming across these vehicles that don't have plates, but nobody will come out and check it out because it's on private property? So these things just get forgotten. They are parted out. People eventually get their vehicles back and they're just destroyed. So what are we supposed to do when we come across these vehicles that do not have plates?
Yeah, it sounds like you did the right thing, to call and report it. There's so many we all have challenges that we're working with. I can't speak to specifically what happened in that instance, and as you said, it was in the city of Canby. But perhaps an officer did show up and check it maybe when you didn't see that. If it's not reported stolen and it's on, like the example, in an apartment complex, there's nothing that law enforcement can do that's not against the law. It could be an unregistered vehicle on private property. If it's on a public roadway, then something can be done about it. So we have to operate within the, between the lines of the law, right? And not outside of that. But you're right. When I said that there's not an increase, and that was just kind of a generic conversation I had with crime analysis, that we're not seeing a spike overall, right? We're all feeling the repercussions of what's happening in the greater Portland metropolitan area, and just changes in society and kind of how we have to operate. And so we still deal with issues like that in Clackamas County. So if there is a dump stolen somewhere, we will come recover it. It belongs to somebody. We'll have it towed off the road.
And Lieutenant, thank you. I'm going to we have a super full agenda, so I'm going to move along. I'm going to take one more question and then we'll move on to our guest speaker, Dirk Schlagenhofer. I hope I did that right. And
hello, yes,
thank you,
that was
Audrey,
great. Thank you. I unmuted myself. I don't see any video, so I guess I get no video, which is fine.
Okay.
I don't need video. Okay. Hi, Lieutenant. Thank you for taking my question. My question is, and I'm trying not to make it too complicated. All right. People living in the woods. There can be a lot of different situations with people living in the woods. It could be people squatting on someone else's property. It could be, somebody, it could be a property owner that has a kid that lives in a tent, lets his friends live there, lots of different situations. It's not always, somebody invading someone's property. I also know that different jurisdictions have different policies. Oregon City has specific policies on what they do with homeless people, where, and that doesn't apply at all in Newell Creek, because in the Newell Canyon, that's county land, that might even be metro land. So I guess my question is, at what point is it a law enforcement issue, and at what point is it a code enforcement issue? Because if someone's letting people live in a trailer on their property, it could be their kid, saving money for a house. That could be code enforcement, I believe. And then if someone's trespassing, I think that's law enforcement. So how do people know who to call and when?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Every scenario is probably a little bit different. The Newell Creek area, some of it is ODOT property, some of it's metro, some of it's county, some of it's private. That's why I'd mentioned earlier that I'm sitting on this this panel that discusses that. And we have people from mental health there, people from the private sector that are offering services. The DA's office is involved, Oregon City is involved, I'm there. So we have and there's just concerned community members in there as well, all trying to work on solutions for that. So we're tackling that specific area. We do have a neighborhood livability program at the sheriff's office, which targets specific problems like that. And it's really similar, where we bring in a lot of different resources. We kind of brainstorm, what can we do about a particular area? Do we attack it from the DA's office side, law enforcement? Is it mental health? Is it code enforcement? And we all work together to try to solve those. But it's on a case-by-case basis, because like you mentioned, they could all be different, right? A solution for one might not work for another. So we brainstorm to try to figure that out. So that's kind of where we're at this point, taking them on a case-by-case basis.
Dirk, so what advice would you, Lieutenant Mendoza, what advice would you give Dirk? Would you start with the sheriff's office? And if it's really a family code enforcement, you would advise Dirk to then go to the county? Is that kind of the best path for him?
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at a situation and evaluated yourself and you thought it was a code enforcement issue, you could start with code enforcement. If you needed some sort of welfare check on these people, then it would default to law enforcement, and then we would kind of take it from there. And law enforcement would take resources with us, like mental health professionals, if that's what was needed. But I think you'd probably kind of weigh those two, code enforcement and law enforcement. But we talk with each other, so we'd end up connecting and working it out.
Excellent. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you for that excellent question. And sounds like Lieutenant Mendoza will be back next month.
Yeah.
So for any of you that have thoughts or questions for Lieutenant, please bring them next month, and we'll set a little extra time aside to chat with him. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your time this evening, and we're going to launch on. Thanks again, Lieutenant. All right, thank you. Let's see, where is he? Bob. I can't see him on the video. There he is, right in the center. Hi, Bob. I'd like to introduce Bob Knorr. He is a Clackamas County Transportation Project Manager, and he is here this evening to talk to us about local road construction projects, and of course, take your questions. So, and Bob, thank you so much for your patience and for being here this evening, and you're on.
Great, thank you. Yes, I'm Bob Knorr, Clackamas County's Engineering Division. And on behalf of the county, Clackamas County, and thank you, Lieutenant Mendoza. And we support one another in various departments, divisions. And as I always say, it takes a village to raise a project. But long after the project is over, gentlemen like Lieutenant Mendoza and his staff take care of you and the public on the facilities that we deliver. Thank you, Tammy and Jessica, Vice Chair, directors, and as well our public government affairs staff, Cameron and Katie. That's Cameron Ruin and Katie Wilson. And as well, our consultant engineer, Ken Reams, may be on here in the background. He's from PBS Environmental Engineering in Portland there. We hire consultant engineers to assist us with the projects, to design them and kind of carry us through the process until it's bid ready for construction. Thank you all for having us tonight. We just wanted to kind of provide a short presentation, a strip map of our project, and then take questions. So I'll go ahead and share the screen here. Let's see. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes, I can see it, Bob.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. This is a project that's been in the making for a few years. We started the design in 2020, put it on kind of hold this last summer, and took care of some administrative things. But we wanted to let you know that the Redland Road turn lanes project is something that we're underway with design right now. And it's between Ferguson and Bradley roads, which you all may be familiar with. As mentioned, we're in design, started in December of 20, and we're hoping to finish it in March of 23. We are at the 30% preliminary design stage right now. And the overall impact is, or I should say that the goal is to minimize impacts to adjacent properties as we go through the design process, but also for construction. It's a safety improvement project, and we want to improve the safety out there with minimal impacts to folks in their property and whatnot. Right away, we're planning to start right away here shortly. In March. It takes about a year to go through the right-of-way process, negotiating with property owners and whatnot. And as it mentions here, the staff will follow. It's a typical general right-of-way acquisition processes that are standardized in the country. You know, like federal aid projects have standardized processes. We use similar for local aid projects like ours. Construction is planned for. A lot of folks ask me when. We're delaying it for about a year and starting in 23 and running from spring until early to mid-fall. Cameron put together some slides here for me outlining some of the crash data. You can see we've got vehicle crash data for at these two intersections, Ferguson and at Bradley. There are daytime crashes for the most part, probably during commuting hours. More of the crashes at Ferguson, and again, mostly rear end type crashes. You know, I've even wondered this too. Some might think that that's not very many crashes perhaps to warrant left turn lanes. But when you analyze the traffic counts and traffic data, and also the speeds along Redland Road in that area, you begin to put together, I do anyway, a clear picture of not just the present day conditions, but our concerns for the future. The area is continuing to grow. The speeds are excessive at times. And with the growth, we're expecting more pressure in that area, and in particular at these two intersections. So we wanted to look at different ways we could kind of solve that. And one of those options is to put in left turn lanes at both westbound Ferguson and eastbound or I should say, heading eastbound on Redland, turning onto Bradley, and heading westbound on Redland toward Ferguson. That'll become more clear here in a minute. The idea again is improving safety, hoping to reduce rear end crashes, and in particular wait times too. The additional lane will help you folks or others out there driving on Redland Road to pass vehicles waiting to turn left. We will be widening Redland Road in order to put in the left turn lanes naturally. Our intent is to widen to one side of the road, and it says depending on the topography and the right-of-way environmental impacts, every project that we perform preliminary engineering and we study and we look at, we're always trying to balance where to put the project footprint. Do we move it left? Do we move it right? And we're thinking about these very things here: topography, right-of-way, and environmental. We're trying to avoid environmental impacts to wetlands, things that cost a lot of money, things that take a lot of time, things that we want to preserve, such as our environment. We want to minimize the cost of right-of-way purchases and also impacts to adjacent property owners. And topography, in this case, the topography on the north side of Redland between Ferguson and Bradley, while not steep for the entire length, there is a section near Ferguson that is steep, and that it drops off quite a bit. With that, we are trying to avoid having to build walls. Walls are expensive, so we've made the choice after looking at our different options to shift our project footprint to the south. And you'll see that here shortly. This is the strip map. I'll pull it up in a minute here. Well, actually, let me see if, yeah, we'll come, I'll go ahead and show that to you. Are you able to see that okay? Great. This is a project strip map that Ken Reams from PBS and his team put together for us. We're currently reviewing this in our 30% design review. It's an internal review that our engineering staff at the county and our traffic section and planning folks take a look at. We meet with him. We have a discussion about the various options, the design itself, and the direction we want to go moving forward. What I'll show you is first the typical section. Now, while this looks a little bit strange to many of you, perhaps, what I would say is that it's a 2D cross-section view. If you were to take with your mind's eye, cut the earth away and stand looking at the earth, you would be looking at the roadway itself naturally. We've chosen to keep a standard configuration basically to the existing road out there, except at Ferguson and Bradley, we're going to put in this 12-foot wide turn lane in the middle. It's still going to have the 11-foot travel lanes that currently reside out there and the 5-foot bike lanes on either side. But by putting the 12-foot travel lane in the middle, we have to widen to one side. And so we'll be widening to the south, we think. And we're putting in a ditch and maintaining slopes on both sides. I think what I'll show you, maybe I'll move in a little bit here.
Hey, Bob, just real quick.
Yep.
Would you like us to hold our questions to the end of your presentation? We do have one of our attendees that has his hand up, or are you willing to take some as we go?
I'm happy to take them as we go.
Oh, well then, would you mind, Jessica, if you bring Jeff Schaefer over for me, please? Hey, Jeff.
Hey there. And it was a really simple question. And it probably could have waited till the end. I was just wondering if, when I thought of this intersection, and I'm sure you've already planned all this, I was thinking Fisher's Mill is the one. I've lived out here forever, and it's like Fisher's Mill is the one that gets all the traffic for left-hand turns.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just because there's not as many crashes there because everybody's used to turning there? And these are the ones that Bradley and Ferguson are the ones that people are more unexpected to turn there, and that's why they have more crashes, and that's why you're doing it? That was really my question, was just because it seemed like more sense at Fisher's Mill just based on the amount of people that turn. So that was my only question.
Sure, Jeff. Thanks for asking. You know, each location is unique. I'm not familiar with the traffic data and the crash data at Fisher's Mill per se. I understand there are projects and there may be another project coming to that area, but quite honestly, I just don't know. I've been tagged with this project as the project manager. A lot of folks wonder how we arrive at these sort of projects. Many of these are planned for well in advance, years in the past. Some of you have probably been visited by our planning staff and even our assistant director, Mike Besner, over the years, and have a chance to kind of provide feedback in that planning stage. But by the time it's handed to me, the project has been well vetted. And I've been given the instructions to manage a design and construction project. As far as the traffic count data, again, I don't know about Fisher's Mill, but I'd be happy to look into it for you. Really would.
Oh, that'd be great, Bob. Thank you very much. And since you're on the Ferguson Road intersection there,
Yep.
I use that frequently.
Uh-huh.
And I'm often coming out of Ferguson and turning right, which would be east onto Redland. And that is just a bear of a turn with a trailer. I have a kind of large horse trailer.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if part of the improvement is to make that right hand just more trailer friendly.
I can't speak to exactly how it will help you necessarily trailer friendly wise, but we are kind of straightening up the intersection a little bit with the stop bar. We're not changing the geometry per se, but we are, I think you'll find favorably here that the radius is going to change a little bit. When we widen, we'll widen this way a little bit. That we'll likely see, as you can see here, the existing road is right here, but the new road is over here.
Oh, yes, that will help tremendously. Thank you so much, Bob.
Yeah, yep. Just the mere convention of widening it helped you out there, Tammy.
It did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. What you see happening here to the west is a transition from existing, and we transition to a wider section. In so doing, we have to move that lane, that existing lane that goes right along here, we have to move that over gradually into this area. And then the red line is the edge of pavement. You can see that then we have to reconstruct the roadway a little bit right here. We've got some new ditches and the green lines there. And as we move further this way, I apologize, the computer there is just kind of buffering as we move through this. You'll see a new left-hand turn lane westbound configuration right here in the middle. So this gives folks heading westbound on Redland Road a chance to get into this turn pocket right here as a safe refuge. Traffic can back up, queue up into that left turn pocket, and folks heading westbound can continue on through. It will reduce anxiety, stress, frustration, and whatnot in waiting behind folks and trying to pass them on the right. They can have a free-flowing movement, and these folks can safely turn onto Ferguson, or I should say more safely. We're hoping in that it'll also relieve pressure on Ferguson folks at Ferguson. In other words, people won't have to feel like they need to rush or risk, whenever we can add safety improvements like that, they can have a little better sight view and make their turning movements more safely. We went back to the existing configuration in the middle. We're really just putting in a left-hand turn lane on either side, Ferguson and Bradley, and then going back to our existing configuration in the middle that you're all familiar with. I won't get into a lot of the right-of-way discussion right now, but you can see that we're putting in a ditch along here, and we're moving. Well, this is in between the intersections where the impacts are minimal in between. The real effects are felt at least in the widening portion at Bradley and Ferguson. And again, you can see here that the road is the lanes are shifting. and allowing for a left-hand turn lane onto Bradley. Again, this design is a draft, it's preliminary, and it's subject to a great amount of change as we move to the 60 and 90% design phase. And we head back to existing configuration at the just the east side of Bradley there. Are there any questions at this point?
I do see that Mark and Cindy Hilliard have their hand up.
Okay.
Yes, will this also benefit the Redland Cafe as far as traffic flow along that area? Because I see it's sort of, Redland Cafe is in between Bradley and Ferguson. And I don't know from what I see, it seems to back down.
Mark,
yes.
The Redland Cafe is not. It's Ferguson and then Bradley, and then about a mile later is the cafe and the little store. You might be thinking of Henrici maybe.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay, so yeah, it shouldn't make any impact other than people will show up there alive. So that would be good. Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking was Henrici, but. And then, oh, Dirk, I thought Dirk had a question, but I don't see him. Okay. Any other questions for Bob? Oh, yes, and Dirk's back. There we go.
I don't know what happened. My hand was up and then all of a sudden my hand went back down.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay, Bob, I do have questions. I've got too many questions, so I'm not going to ask them. I have lots of concerns about extra pavement, and you mentioned slope to the north is pretty big. With extra pavement comes extra runoff. I always have erosion concerns, but I trust your engineer, so I'm not going to go into that, but I do want to just mention that. Okay, when I was looking at the map, I see there's a lot of trees, and I know that there is, I know the property owners get compensated for the right of way for the land that they need to give up. What about the trees? Is there some kind of mitigation for the trees? And is it for the current value of the trees? Would it be for the future value of the trees, if any of it's marketable timber? How is that handled?
Thank you, Dirk. Those are great questions. As far as trees go, I'll work backwards from trees to the stormwater question. My understanding in listening to my right-of-way staff negotiate on other projects is that trees are, property owners are compensated for trees oftentimes at a fair market value. And if there's any question about that, folks will employ the consultation of an arborist, say. But apparently our right-of-way staff, is able to develop a fair market value for trees and have an intelligent conversation with the property owners about those. Right, we're not just buying land only. Each property is uniquely negotiated or individually negotiated on a case-by-case basis. So trees will be part of that conversation. Now, as far as the stormwater concern, you mentioned extra pavement. That is what we call impervious surfaces. Stormwater doesn't travel too well through the asphalt, and it does run off. And the way that our consultant engineer has suggested we deal with that is to develop a ditch swale in this area of the project, from Ferguson westward to about this section right here where this cross pipe is, we're conceptualizing, will cross Redland Road. So there'll be a ditch swale in this area. It will have a calculated volume to handle the additional runoff, hold it, treat it, and allow some detention time for a lot of the stormwater to soak away, and then eventually travel the excessive amounts over the a stormwater quality storm, we call it per se, will travel through that pipe, and it will meet up with the existing system or existing ditches that are already there. We don't want to add additional stormwater flow that would inundate the existing ditch and conveyance system. We want to deal with the additional and slowly release it. you may remember, and I wanted to show you again, that ditch section in our typical, this is called a typical section on our will be eventually in our construction plans. But the ditch section that I'm talking about there is simply right here. It's a standard ditch. It's just going to have a grassy swell. It's similar to the ditch on the remaining part of the project, except that it's going to be able to treat that stormwater and eventually take it across the street. So does that help?
Yeah, that was really, really informative. I appreciate all that, Bob. I guess one last question would be, where would the property line for the property owner at that point be? Would it be on the outside of the ditch, or do they have the ditch, but it's part of the right of way?
Yeah, good question. At this point,
I don't have property there. I'm just curious.
I get you. We use a computer model generating or approximating where we think our proposed design will catch. We call it the existing surfaces, the existing ground. And our consultant has asked his staff to label that line with a C for catch or catch point. And we think that that ditch will catch the existing ground right along here. And again, that has to do with, I'll show you here again. Right here, it will go at a certain slope to daylight. In other words, until it catches or it reaches daylight. You'll cut the ground until it catches the existing ground out here. Or until that back slope on our, so we'll have that swale, it has a back slope behind it on the ditch. Eventually that will catch existing ground up here. Now the right-of-way line might be right here, the existing right-of-way line. And if it catches out here beyond the right-of-way line, we're going to, if when we're all said and done and we agree that this is the best we can do, we will propose to the property owner and wish to negotiate with the property owner purchasing some property. And I say that as carefully and as respectfully as I can, because it's not easy for folks to have to give up some of their property. We're very sensitive about that.
Thank you, Dirk. I believe Amy Manning has a question. And then we'll move to Jack Hip.
Hi, I was wondering if it's a good time or appropriate person to ask about the status of the Hamlet and Beavercreek intersection.
I have no idea about that whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, Amy, unfortunately, that would be a Mike Besner and Rick Nye's question. And so, as a matter of fact, Bill Merchant and Mark Hilliard and I will be talking with the entire transportation staff at the county early February, and we will absolutely talk with them and get back to you on that.
Cool.
So it's just a different project.
And I apologize, Amy, that I'm not aware of all those different things because I work specifically in the capital improvement section. We divided our engineering and transportation group into different sections. And while we try to keep our ear to the ground on what we're all doing, some of us are focusing on very specific things, and I'm focusing on capital improvement projects.
Okay, in particular, this area.
Now, I have projects all over the county, and each of us do as project managers and engineers, but would love to have helped you out on that one.
We'll get an answer for Amy. It's a great question, and we are meeting with all the people. So, and Jack, you had a question? Thanks, Amy.
Well, basically mine was exactly the same as Amy's. And do remind the people that you talk to that sometime last year, somebody spoke at one of our meetings and he said, I'm going to have a real surprise for you on how we're going to mitigate the problems at that intersection. Have not heard anything about a surprise yet.
Well, and both of the people that kind of said that in a sense will be at that meeting. So it's a big part of that conversation, is not just talking about intersections on 213, but also that plays into it. And if you remember correctly, we talked about a land use application that specifically talked about that intersection. So we promise to get back to you very soon on what happened to that project. So thank you, Jack. Were there any other, I'm sorry, Amat. No, I don't see any other questions. Go ahead, Bob.
Wonderful. It's fun to talk about traffic and transportation, isn't it? I love it. Thanks for having us, and we're glad to do this with you. Try to wrap it up here for you so you can get on to other business. Cameron and the Public Government Affairs staff do an outstanding job of taking care of us and the remaining staff, like project managers, and also keeping you informed. We have websites. We're reaching out to you in this meeting format. Cameron helps reach out to everyone with social media. You might see a lot of the county's postings on Nextdoor. She's very instrumental and involved in that as well. You're welcome to email me or anyone at the county about your concerns or interests in the project, and as well some of the mailings that you might be seeing. If you're within a certain vicinity of the project, we'll send out mailings like postcards and flyers. And if you'd like some individual attention or a phone call or visit, I'd be real happy to, or our staff, come out and talk with you about the project.
Bob, thank you so much. As a matter of fact, Cameron reached out. Oh, sorry, I do see your hand up now. Sorry, Bill, please go ahead.
I just wanted to call attention that Dirk has a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. And okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so one of Amy's was, are we going to talk about other intersections? No, these are the ones that Bob is focusing on, but give me a chat on what intersections you want to talk about other than the Camworth Leland. One last question, people that lose land, do property taxes automatically get adjusted, or do people need to apply for a reassessment? Oops, syntax, okay. So there you go.
It seems, I guess in my experience, it would be readjusted automatically. Your tax assessor or the assessment staff base that on a square footage. Isn't that correct? Is other folks' experience?
I think so.
Yeah. So your property would be reassessed. In fact, we can, yeah, I can look at assessor's data myself sometimes when I'm researching a project, and I can see, the square footages and whatnot, and it's something that would be taken care of once the projects, or I should say the right-of-way negotiations have completed. Oh, that's it. We develop a new legal description of the property. Documents are signed. All parties are, aware and privy to the new documents. And so you have a new legal description and new meets and bounds of your property based on the negotiations that occurred with the right-of-way staff.
Great. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So what I was saying was that Cameron had reached out to us, and we really appreciated it. Beavercreek and Karis areas are very, very large. And so if you'll keep that in mind of future projects, as well as any other project managers, this is really, I think, as you can see, people are interested, they have questions, and this is wonderfully helpful. So I don't know if Cameron kind of coordinates all of you, or but we would love to be left on a list for future projects. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other, are you wrapping up, or are you done, Bob, or? Just
one last little bit there on the funding. Wanted you to know that this is one of the community road fund projects that you had all voted. We voted a few years back, the vehicle registration fee, you might remember. We're trying to be very transparent about how that money is spent. This is one of those projects that we're funding with some of those funds. The overall budget for the project is approximately $2 million. It is funded by Community Road Fund, mentioned there in number 1, bullet 1, and also in 2 other bullets, the county's road fund, and then state House Bill 2017 state gas tax money. So we've got 3 different funding pots there to help fund this project, design and construction. There's some other community road fund projects nearby. Tammy, you were mentioning, the importance of other nearby projects, and yeah, Cameron does help coordinate the public outreach part, which is a huge benefit to me, so that I can keep working on what I do, and she assists me and other project managers. So we'll be seeing more of each other, I hope.
Good, thank you. That's wonderful.
Yep. You folks might recognize some of the other projects in your area or nearby.
Mhm.
Amasiga Road. Well, there's the Redland Road and Fisher's Mill Road roundabout.
Wow, and I think that answers Jeff Shaver's question right there, that not only is that being looked at, but a roundabout, that's a very big deal.
Yeah. And Jeff, I'd be happy to look into that project a little further if you'd like. I'm just not privy to it in particular. And that's it for us. We appreciate your time and having us. Thank you all.
Hey, Bob, I think I have one final question. Does the county pay for those affected properties to be resurveyed, or just the one side of the property? So is on the, when you do the road projects, I would assume your surveyors come as a part of your processes to resurvey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The property owner is not responsible for resurveying the property lines. So
great.
Those pins, those property pins will be reestablished by the project.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Wow, Bob, thank you. And Cameron, thank you so much. And we hope to see you back. I'm kind of watching the chat and hands up, but I think we're in pretty good. Whoops, here we go. See if there was any other. Nope, it's just you're getting lots and lots of thank yous on the chat. So Bob, thank you again. We look forward to seeing you again. And if a question pops up, we'll shoot Cameron an email, and maybe she can help us find the right project manager.
Be happy to help. Thanks for having us.
Good night, and thank you again.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right. Our third and final guest speaker, my goodness, it is a busy town hall meeting, is our county staff liaison. Katie Wilson will be giving us an update on county activities, as well as a little list I gave on stuff that's going on around here. So Katie, you're on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's been a great meeting so far, great agenda. So I'll try to breeze through these things, and if there's questions, please feel free to ask as I go. So Tammy and I talked about some of the things going on that she's been hearing about, or I've been hearing about. We always try to come up with a list for our town hall meetings of what to update the community on. So the first thing is I coordinate our CCI, which is our Committee for Community Involvement. That's the advisory board that supports the CPO and Hamlet program and community engagement countywide. And one of the main things on their agenda this year has been really looking at the areas of unincorporated Clackamas County that are currently don't have active CPOs. And we are happy to say that the number of areas is slowly becoming smaller, which is great news. So CCI has been focusing on how can we engage those inactive areas to try to raise awareness and hopefully encourage community members to step up and reactivate their CPO. We've also been exploring ways that perhaps neighboring active CPOs might be able to monitor the land use happening in those areas until an active CPO can be established, and then also help kind of mentor community members in those inactive areas to learn how to operate a new CPO, to help train future board members. It can be a little bit daunting to step up the first time around to be a CPO leader. And so we have a lot of folks in our CPO and Hamlet programs who are willing to help and show new folks the ropes and help encourage them along the way. So that's always great news. We've recently reactivated the Damascus CPO, the Cottrell CPO, and we are in the process of reactivating the Mount Hood CPO. They aren't sure what they want to call themselves. In the past, they were the Mount Hood Corridor, but they're exploring new names. So stay tuned what that will look like. But that there has been a kind of an inactive area between Firwood and the Rhododendron CPO. And so hopefully by the end of February, we will have an active Mount Hood area, which will be really exciting. We're looking at maybe focusing in Estacada next. There's a strong need to, and there are some neighbors already interested in the Estacada area. So we're hoping that might be a quick process. You never know, but we're hoping that will be a fairly quick process. And then maybe turn our focus to the Canby, South Canby area. That's like a large geographic area, but it's not very dense. That's been one of the challenges to finding interested neighbors in that area is it's one of the less dense rural areas. So there's just not as many folks. But hopefully we will find some interested neighbors who are willing to step forward. So that's been a positive. And it's been really a pleasure to work with our CCI volunteers. The other exciting thing is we have folks who we have had 3 vacancies on CCI for some time now, and we have people interested in serving on the committee, which is great. I would love to have a full roster again. So we'll be working to reopen a recruitment. We have to do a recruitment of, a community-wide recruitment, and then ultimately CCI and staff will work to make a recommendation, but the BCC appoints ABC volunteers, ABCs being advisory boards and commissions. And so that's just a little bit of a process to make sure that we have a transparent recruitment process that anyone is welcome to participate in. I see there's a question in chat. Let me. Yes, that is the area that wanting to know the South Canby area. Tammy, you're on mute. Are you talking to me?
I was responding, but yes, I know to the person that asked this, but yes, go ahead.
Yes, the South Canby area is the Lone Elder area. Yeah.
And what I wanted to mention was that there's a really nice map on the county website. If you just go to community involvement and hit the CPO map, it'll give you a really nice of all the CPOs. And so if you wanted to kind of look on there for South or Canby, what that covers, it'll show you.
And then another tool, if you ever have neighbors that maybe aren't your direct neighbors or friends that don't know what CPO they might live in, you can use the CMAP tool on the county website. If you just type in your address, it will tell you what CPO that address is in. So that's been a really useful tool for folks that might be new and just don't know who their CPO is. So that's a great starting point if you're unsure. So we talked a little bit about how neighboring active CPOs can request to receive the land use applications for inactive areas. Of course, anybody countywide can comment on any land use countywide. So whether you're a CPO or an individual, we always want to encourage participation, and you can comment on anything anywhere in the county. So please feel free to participate. We often get a lot of participation on land use projects, but not as much participation when there's like zone changes or code changes, code amendments. That's where it's been really helpful to get community participation, because that's when the rules shift. And so as Tammy knows, serving on the Planning Commission, it's hard when folks are frustrated with a project that meets the current code. And so the best time to weigh in is if, there's a code amendment being discussed at the policymaking level. That's a great time to give your feedback. We have had some turnover, actually lots of turnover at Clackamas County, and our department is not immune to that. So we have been able to rehire to fill some of the vacant positions. So you may be seeing new names that you're not familiar with. I will still be your liaison, but we have a new support person helping in public health. We have a new position that's being funded by FEMA dollars to support our EOC and PIO function. And then we have a new person also support.
Acronyms, EOC.
Oh, Emergency Operations Center, PIO is Public Information Officer. So something we learned in all of 2020 up until now, 2021, and who knows when it will end, but is one public information officer is not enough for a county. That's a lot of work. When we were operating a full-time emergency operations center for 2 emergencies at the same time, that was a lot for one person to be our point of contact for media and public information. So looking to deepen our bench and be more proactive with resiliency and disaster preparedness. So that's, and because there were federal dollars made available, that's how we were able to do that. So that's exciting. We're also bringing someone on board with the housing dollars. So we'll have someone devoted to supporting communication for housing. And next on the list, Hamlet Zoom recordings. I know there's been a lot of questions around how we're saving those Zoom meetings. This is probably not something the community is as worried about as the board. Yes, we're saving your recordings. There's limited space on our Zoom account, and so we go in and move those recordings out of the Zoom cloud situation and onto the county hard drive. So those are being saved, and if you need those, we can load them up to YouTube and send them your way. So we can chat more about that, but rest assured they've been saved. In order to get more storage space, it was a bigger expense, and we were just trying to conserve county dollars. So makes it a little bit more work on our end, but for now, we're just going in on a weekly basis and clearing out all the different community group recordings. So those are safe and sound. We are looking to find new ways to engage the county, or county is looking for better ways to engage rural residents constantly. So we're constantly looking to you for new ways that we can do that. Our engagement program is something that the board is really interested in, wanting to explore new ways and equitable ways to engage people who have not normally participated in the past. And so our department's been working with our equity office to develop different innovative ways to meet community where they're at. We're currently in the process of doing what's called a community scan. Our equity office is supporting that to really learn who's in Clackamas County. We know that shifts constantly, but to get kind of a snapshot in time as to who is there, and beyond the census data, how do we serve those populations better? It's more than just translating things into different languages or having the logistical information to mail things to folks. It's really understanding where people are getting their information, what their lifestyles are, what they're looking for, how they want to participate. We know we'd love more people to come to Hamlet and CPO meetings, but are there other ways that folks can also participate and engage with Hamlets and CPOs and the issues that Hamlets and CPOs are working on? So we're exploring social media. different virtual tools. Now that we're all getting really good at meeting virtually, there are lots of tools that we can explore to make this experience more interactive. So we're looking to do that. We know that everybody wants to be able to have hybrid meetings. That is something that is a big challenge. I am confident someone smarter than myself will figure it out. But the biggest challenge to do that is the equipment and sound quality. The reason the BCC can do it is they're in a very high-tech room where everyone has a microphone, and we have a big sound room behind the BCC meeting where a tech person is running all those mics and all of the things. That's hard.
And that's the Board of County Commissioners.
Did I say?
I know we have so many wonderful.
Yes, the Board of
folks
County
meeting.
Commissioners. So their meeting, go ahead,
We
Kimmy.
have a question. It says here, encourage Facebook community pages would be a suggestion. It would be get the word out and find a resident to head that up. We do, in fact, the Hamlet of Beavercreek has our social media director, Diana Kreitz. I do believe she's in our audience tonight. And that has helped immensely. I mean, we've had a website, and the website carries a tremendous amount of wonderful information, but we needed to reach out to where people go for what's going on in the world. And a lot of times that's Facebook. And with our new director, well, let's see, we have 14 people here tonight. That doesn't happen. So we're super excited, but we will take any additional suggestions. We do have not just the Hamlet of Beavercreek Facebook group, but also, or page, it's not a group. There's also the Beavercreek Forum, and that has been very instrumental as well, because when things are going on out in the community, our social media director will, send them to the Hamlet page or to the website where we store tons of data. So thank you for that question, but we'll take more suggestions because we want participation. Thank you, Katie. Sorry.
No, totally great. We are always looking. Bill, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. When we have our meetings, as soon as I get a link to the recording of the Zoom meeting, I go back to the agenda for that meeting and I say, if you want to see what happens, click this link. But if that stuff is going away off of Zoom, how do I get a link to the Hamlet's copy, or how do I direct people to the Hamlet's copy at the county? So how do I direct people to the county? And frankly, I don't want to get in the middle of it. I don't want to be the person that people are calling saying, how do I find the minutes or the recording of the meeting back in September of last year? Could you please? Yeah, I don't want to do anything with that. So how do I get them over to you?
Okay, so meeting recordings, we can load onto our YouTube channel and put a YouTube link. That's the easiest way to share it on the web. And if you would rather that be on the county website rather than your website, we can work to update that. And then you can just link over to our page if that is your preference. Yeah. So let me dig into that. But that's how we share most of the video content at the county, is we have a YouTube channel. It just makes it easy to manage, and also manage the records retention for meeting recordings. So happy to do that.
That would be great. If you'll let us know how to do that, we will be glad to do that in the future, because I know that the direct links to Zoom stuff is going to go away if Zoom fills up. So how do we direct it? And how you're going to let me know? Good.
Yep.
Thanks.
We'll take care of it. Yeah, we have much more space available on our YouTube channel than in our Zoom account. So we'll go ahead and go that route. So the last thing I wanted to just let y'all know is that I'm working with Ellen, who is our community relations specialist with Cameron in DTD and planning. DTD is Department of Transportation and Development. And they're working on land use housing strategy project. And so we've been asked to help support putting together a meeting. So we have a meeting scheduled February 7th, which is a Monday night at 6:30 think we said 6:30 p.m. We'll be sending out a save the date with the link, and then Ellen will be sharing more meeting materials for this. But it will be CPO and Hamlet leaders learning about the housing, middle housing projects and the land use housing strategies, how the county is working to make changes to our land use policies to help support more affordable housing in Clackamas County. And so looking for feedback and CPO and Hamlet leaders to help get the word out so we can get more feedback from folks out in the community. There'll be other community meetings, there'll be other outreach strategies, but the first ask was to get out to the CPO and Hamlet leaders. It's not a traditional community leaders meeting because they needed more time on the agenda than we normally give. So they are having their own special meeting, but inviting all of the CPO and Hamlet leaders. It'll be via Zoom. And so more details of that will come, but we know that that's been something everyone's been talking about, housing prices and housing needs in the county. So hopefully we'll get a good turnout and some great feedback to help support the work. So that's really all I had on my list. Happy to take questions or if there's something I missed.
Questions from anyone? That's a big topic. We just had quite a sizable meeting on the middle housing on the Planning Commission. And I'll be talking about that later in the agenda, how that impacts actually Beavercreek. So we'll be a little more specific, but that's wonderful. I'm glad you're having a leaders meeting to get that out there because it's not going to impact too many of us, but it will for housing prices. Okay, I'm not seeing
There's
questions.
a question.
What?
There's a question in chat, Tammy, from Aubrey. So there will be other outreach opportunities. Let me check with Ellen as to when those meetings will be and where those materials can be found and get back to you so that we can make sure to plug you in and get the information you're looking for. Bill?
And when I find out about it, I'll put it on our website.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
And
Okay,
just for those, you have such a good turnout tonight, Tammy. I just want to tell everyone in the space that if I don't look familiar to you because you haven't seen me in a Hamlet meeting yet, I am the community engagement liaison. So please, if there's something at the county that you can't find information on or you need help connecting to, I'm your gal. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. And we just want to encourage folks to stay engaged and ask questions.
Katie, thank you so much. Always happy to have you at our town halls, and I'll follow up on other stuff later. So thank you. We'll talk soon, and thank you for joining us, and we'll keep pushing forward tonight. Have a good evening.
Have a great night.
We will. Thanks. All right. All right. Before we start in with our land use application, this is normally the time of the agenda where we ask any of our attendees if there is something that's not on the agenda that you'd like to bring up, either a comment, a question, well, anything, a future speaker idea, anything you'd like. If something pops in your head later on in the meeting, we're pretty flexible here. So, okay, I'm not seeing any hands up, so we'll go ahead and move along. We have 2 active land use applications. The first is Z0001-22 Larry LaRue at 18024 South Steiner Road in Beavercreek. The property is zoned a rural residential farm forest 5 acre. He has 1.19 acres, and he is requesting a home occupation renewal to use a 12-foot by 35-foot, which is 420 square feet, area of an existing pole barn to continue to operate a fishing lure business. The board was forwarded the application and reviewed it. It was also put on the website. Thank you, Bill. And I have not, normally if there's any comments or questions, I'll receive an email, a text, a phone call. I've received no input in favor, in opposition, no questions. But I would like to ask the citizens and board if you have any questions on this application. And if not, I would very much like to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the renewal of Z0001-22, Larry LaRue, for a home occupation permit.
Second.
Okay, Joe Mattio seconds. Very good. Any further discussion? All right, we have over 25, do we not? Oh, we don't. No, we don't. Oh, crud. Okay, so we need to do a roll call. And just for anyone that isn't aware of this, we need to, the board vote separately than from citizens. That's how the county requests these input to come in. So I'm going to ask that the citizens vote. And Jessica, remind me the best way to do that. Did we do that in chat and then you capture it there? Okay.
Yeah,
So-
record it in chat when you repeat what the proposal is.
Right.
Then people will say, yes or no, or for or against.
Okay.
Or
I'll do that.
abstain.
All right. So we have a motion on the table made by Bill Merchant to accept or to ask the county to approve land use application Z0001-22. Joe Mattio seconded the motion. And so if all of our citizens would vote in chat, and what we ask you to do is either do yes, meaning you're in favor of the motion, no, you are not in favor of the motion, or abstain. So, and if there's two of you, like Barbara, if you and Pete are there, if you would please put yes, Barbara, yes, Pete, or something like that, because we like to, make sure all citizens can be counted. And then Jessica can grab that data and doesn't have to do it exactly right now. Do you?
It looks like she's diving into it.
Yes, she is.
And I'll just remind people that we do have your name so that when you are in chat, you're voting, you don't have to give us your name again because we already have your name as who's saying yes or no.
Unless there's two
Unless
people.
there's two people.
Or more,
Right.
right. Then that would.
We got 3 people, give us everybody's name.
We want it all. That's great. Because I can write this down. Board, would you please vote and please do the raise hand feature if you are in favor? And that looks like we have 7 in favor. And if you are opposed, please raise your hand. And if you are abstaining, please raise your hand.
I missed it, but I'm voting in favor.
You're in favor. All right, then that was a unanimous. Very good. Kenny, thank you. 1 second, just documenting. Okay. You got it, Jess? Beautiful.
15 in favor, 1 abstained, 0 no's.
Wonderful. And it was unanimous on the board, Jess.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, wonderful. Well done. We're getting this down. Okay, our next land use application is Z0573-21. Property owner is Beth Koch. The applicant is Brian Koch. It's at 16319 South Moore Road, Oregon City. The zoning is rural residential farm forest 5 acre. They're on 1.03 acres, and it's requesting the renewal of a home occupation permit to use 483 square feet of a 2nd floor addition above the attached garage for a mobile dental office. Now, this time I did receive a phone call today, and the phone call was from Marie Gassner, and she is a neighbor. And when this application was first submitted, several of the neighbors were very concerned about mainly traffic, lots of traffic in and out. And she called me today to report that that is not the case, that the car leaves in the morning and the car returns in the evening, and that is it. So traffic is not and has not been a problem. She had no complaints, only support of the service. She said this is an asset to the community as it serves the needs of care centers because it's a mobile dental as well as shut-ins. And she said she had heard no complaints from neighbors as well. And she said, this is a very compassionate dentist. So that was her input. And that's the only input or questions that I received. Do we have any, again, the board? Oh, yes, Joe.
No.
Okay. Any questions or comments regarding this application? Okay, then I would please entertain a motion.
I move that we support Z0573-21.
Beautiful. Thank you, Joe. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Wonderful. Who was that?
Jack.
Oh, Jack. Thank you, Jack. You sounded a little different. All right. Any further discussions or questions? Very good. So here we go again. For, let me repeat, Joe Matteo made a motion in support of Z0573-21. Jack Hipp seconded it to provide a letter to the county in support of the renewal. So everyone in your attendees, if you will use chat again, and yes is in support of the motion, no is in opposition, and abstain is abstain. In the meantime, board, if you'll do raise hand if you're in support. Mark and Kenny, you're not, oh, we got Kenny. Mark, you're gonna hold, okay.
I have a hard time finding it sometimes.
Okay, all right. All right, so please lower your hands, board, and if you're in opposition, please raise your hand. And if you're abstaining, please raise your hand. Oh, I missed it. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Cheryl, your hand is up. Were you abstaining or in opposition? You're on mute.
I didn't mean to hit the button then. I'm in favor of.
Okay, okay. I think the only one I didn't see go up. Boy, I got confused on that one. Oh, it was Mark. Mark, what was your vote?
In favor.
Okay, I think we're unanimous then.
I didn't see Kenny's hand.
I think it came up right at the end, but Jack does have his hand up. Are you voting or do you have a question?
Oh, I voted.
Okay, beautiful. All right. It was unanimous for the board as well, Jess, when you're ready. So while Jess is doing that tally, we can actually move on to decisions because we don't take any votes there. So the very first land use activity or decision is one that maybe several of you are aware of. This was an applicant of a conditional use application from a Mr. John Childs. He's over off of Kirk Road, which is in the original Kara CPO area, not very far from the school, the little grade school there. Its property is zoned exclusive farm use. It's a 70-acre area. And this is an application that actually went to the hearings officer. Some applications go the route we're going, others go in other directions with a hearings officer. And they're asking for the ability to, a home occupation to host events like weddings, reunions, and that. So on this hearing, Mark Hilliard represented the board, and he also owns property over there. So he also testified as a property owner and an individual. And Mark, would you like to share how that hearing went briefly?
Hearing went very well attended. Many, I think there's only 2, 3, maybe of the property owners in the near area on Kirk Road that did not attend. And then there was other surrounding property owners on the north side that had the opportunity for comment. The only positive comment was the actual Mr. Child's manager for the farm or activities that are going on over there. And all the rest of them were had concerns. The hearings officer then, since the state of Oregon did not respond to the request from the county for this application, Mr. Childs was burdened with getting a traffic engineer and proving that the intersection is or is not, or how it can be improved there at the intersection of Highway 213 and Kirk Road. That was a concern of everybody. And Mr. Childs had to admit that it is a concern. He also has to show that the road, Kirk Road itself, is going to be able to handle the additional traffic load. He is also going to have to put together a lighting package showing that the lighting in what he's proposing will not adversely affect the neighbors. And the neighbors were very much concerned about that. And some of the neighbors were also very concerned about his access road into the property being so close to their property that even when they let go of events at 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night, within 20, 30 or 40 feet of their house, it will be adversely impacting their style of living that is already accustomed in the area. So Mr. Childs has requested an extension of 30 days with which the hearings officer allowed. And the hearing officer also told him, because Mr. Childs brought up that, well, some changes could happen in the future. No, what he proposes is what will be put into stone. So he needs to make sure that what he's going to do is what's going to be happening and nothing is going to extend beyond, which was gave the hearings officer a lot of credit to make sure that was emphasized. And so there's about 5 weeks, 4 weeks for him, and then another week or so for those areas and the people that are in the area affected by this to respond to what Mr. Childs then puts forward. So it was a very good, for my first time dealing with this, it was very educational, and I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more of this.
And I can't thank you enough, Mark, for doing it and stepping up the plate. It is hard, and there's a lot of preparation. And once you've done a few of them, you can almost sleep at night. So I do believe we have a question from Catherine Sorensen. If you wouldn't mind bringing her over, Jess. Go ahead, Catherine. We're not hearing you. Can you try again? Can you mute and then unmute again and see if we can hear you? Catherine, we still can't hear you. Again, can you click the mute button and then unclick it? Maybe. Darn.
Another option is for Catherine to type her question into chat.
Oh, okay, thank you, Bill, very much. Catherine, could you type your question into chat, and we can try again a little bit later to see if we can bring you on in person. Okay, again, Mark, thank you. Well done. And so we're in
Hello?
Oh, there she is.
Finally. Okay, I had to turn my headset off. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so I was in attendance at the hearing, and while it did go well, there's still work for all of us to do. And definitely we appreciated the support of the CPO. The county liaison mentioned that you were also in opposition, as did the land use attorney. But if you guys, somebody could draft another letter in the interim before his extension date, which is February 17th, it would really, really be helpful to our cause. There were many things that Mr. Childs answered that were conflicting. Like he changed the number of guests, I don't know, 5 or 6 times during the hearing. He went from the 75, which is on his application, to 300 once in a while, to 210 once in a while. It seemed like he landed on 210. But there were just so many discrepancies in what he said and what his application says. I do think he has a lot of work to do, but our letters were extremely effective. Our presence at the hearing was extremely effective. And if I could ask for your continued support as the CPO, you guys carry a lot of weight and it's really, really appreciated. It's just a nightmare to have something like this. It's at his current numbers, it will increase the traffic by 7,700 cars on an unimproved road, as we talked about at the last hearing. But I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and appreciate your help. And if you can offer more, that would be wonderful.
Very good, Catherine. Thank you so much. Mark.
As soon as I get whatever Mr. Childs is going to be presenting to the county, or however he's going to amend, I will be putting together some kind of a draft I'm already working on based off of what I've heard when we had the hearings, and then supplement it into the responses.
And that would be fabulous. Mark, you'll run that by the board just so that, yes, oh, good. So it'll come from the board as a representative. That is exactly how we do it.
Yep.
Perfect. Wow, excellent. Thank you, everyone. And Catherine, thank you so much for unplugging your headphones. All right. Again, Mark, very proud and I appreciate it. Let's launch. I think several people might be here to chat about the next activity.
Hey, Tammy.
Yes.
I think I might have moved Catherine over before. Let me bring her back over. Seems like she has another question.
Oh. Catherine, did you have another question?
I do, but now I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
I'll try to get it back. Maybe put it in the chat.
That's fine, or raise your hand. We're pretty
Okay.
done.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so to speak.
Yeah.
But when I think of it, I will write it back in the chat. And it definitely has to do with Mr. Childs.
Okay, well, and what's important, Catherine, I'm pretty confident you probably have Mark's email address.
Oh, yeah.
So keep thoughts coming because he'll be kind of making that list. Things like lighting, has that been solved? But the point is, there's going to be your resource for any suggestions, and then he'll draft a letter, and then the board will, bless it, and then we'll go on. So, yeah, that's a good direction for it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. The next one was an application from Mission Teams Incorporated, which was Northwest Bible Training Center. And this is out on Bloom Road in Beavercreek. They're on exclusive farm use property, 7.7 acres. And what they had requested was a comprehensive plan amendment for an exception to statewide planning goal 3 to use the property, which was including an existing residence and accessory buildings for an addiction farm, recovery farm. This application came to the Hamlet. Again, Bill chaired that piece because I sat on the planning commission. Then it came to the planning commission, which the suggestion of the planning commission was denial. And then it went on to the Board of County Commissioners in December. Unfortunately, their their virtual technology failed. And so it was extended until actually this morning at 10 a.m. I know Bill and I, or at least two people, also Diana Kreitz, listened to that this morning. And the ultimate is that the Board of County Commissioners denied it. But really, what does that mean? And I've asked Bill kindly to really capture what that means to us today, into the future, and different ways that might go. So Bill, thank you for helping us.
Sure. The Board of County Commissioners this morning decided 3-1 because Paul Savas was not there to deny the application. The Board of County Commissioners is the final spot in terms of the counties having to do anything with this. At this point, the Board of County Commissioners will direct the planning staff to deny this application and prepare documents for them that they will accept in their consent agenda at their next business meeting. The consent agenda, if it's on the consent agenda, it's accepted. So the shouting's over for the county at this point. After the consent agenda is accepted, the applicant, the Mission Teens Incorporated, has 21 days to file an appeal of this decision with LUBA. And if they do that, then LUBA gets to take on and look at it and will come and decide about it. And that can take weeks to months, sometimes even longer. And it will be in LUBA's hands until LUBA comes down with a final decision. If LUBA comes down with a decision to not permit it, then the Mission Teens can appeal that to circuit court, and it can go to circuit court. And if they lose in circuit court, they can take it to federal court, because one of the conditions that they say is important to consider here is that it is a religious use. And they contend that because it's a religious use, they will be able to do this and the county can't stop them, basically. I'm paraphrasing here. But county council talked about this, and the planning staff talked about this. The federal religious land use law, I can't remember the real word of it, says that you can only do this if the this will cause an irremediable harm to the applicant. And the county staff does not feel that this is irremediable, that they think that they just aren't able to do it here on EFU. And frankly, all of the commissioners said what they're doing here, the addiction treatment services, is wonderful. They think it's just great. They think it's helping citizens in Clackamas County. It's providing stuff that the county doesn't have to pay for. You don't have to pay for through your taxes. It's just a really wonderful thing to have happen, but not on EFU land. So the Mission Teens could find another kind of land like FF10 or RRFF5 or some other designated zone that this might be permitted in, but it wouldn't be at this site because this site is an EFU site. So when this gets finally decided is really hard to tell. But right now, the county has said it's not permitted at this site. So,
and so the burning question is going to be, how long can they operate? And
well,
there you go. That's a hard one.
That's the really hard one, because they will probably be allowed to continue to operate as long as they're contesting the decision, which means it goes through LUBA and they can continue to operate while it's going through LUBA. If they lose there, it goes to court. They can continue to operate until a court decision is made. If they lose at court, they can take it to the federal court, and it will continue to operate until they win or lose in federal court. And if they win, they can continue to operate. And also the same thing's true with LUBA. If LUBA looks at this and says, oh no, Clackamas County made the wrong decision, this is a permitted use, then it would be permitted. So it's sort of out of Clackamas County's hands now, and there's no telling really in terms of months or years when this could have to be shut down. So,
and I do see Kenny's hands up, and then after that, Barbara.
I was just going to ask, they don't have to go to LUBA and the circuit court, right? They could jump straight to federal court if they want.
They might be able to, but the county's analysis and their legal analysis was pretty clear that this does not fall within the religious land use provisions of federal law. They think it really falls outside it. So, it depends. Right now, the county has said no. What the applicant does from this point is up to the applicant.
Right. Yeah, I think what county council said was the law applies, but they don't feel that it burdens them significantly.
Exactly. It's not an irremediable burden. That's the county's position. Because they can relocate, they can put it in a different place, they can still have it in a rural area, but it's not on EFU land. And that's the real crux of the whole application, and the crux of the disapproval of the application was that it's on resource land on EFU land. Same thing would be true in timberland as well, but it's on resource land, and protection of resource land is very high priority.
And I just wanted to point out, there's also some questions popping up in the chat after the next person with their hand up.
Barbara and Pete have their hand up, and then we'll start monitoring chat as well.
So Barbara, you're on mute.
Bill, yeah, Peter, actually. Bill, that's okay. You told us which of the commissioners was not present for the vote. Who was the one vote? Who was
Mark Schull voted no on the motion to reject the thing. He would have let them go through with having this thing there, but
the other three voted for.
Right.
Okay.
Chair Smith, Commissioner Sonia Fisher, and Commissioner Martha Schrader voted in favor with Chair Smith to not approve of the application.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Peter. And Aubrey has a question.
You're on mute, Aubrey.
I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question in regard to this is, if they choose to go through this appeals process and it is bumped up, will the Hamlet be staying in communication with the residents, letting us know what options are available to us at each step, how we can voice our opinions and be heard?
Well, like I said, at this point, it's out of the county's hands. The county has said no. And beyond the county saying no, we don't have any say in it. I mean, we'll keep our eye on what's happening with this for sure. And we'll let you know what we find out. But if they go to LUBA, if they go to circuit court, if they go to federal court, all we can do is sort of monitor that, unless you want to file an amicus brief with the courts, or you want to file an amicus intervention with LUBA. That's about it. We really don't know. We don't really have much more that we can do here because the county has said no. If the county has said yes, we could have taken ourselves to LUBA. We could have taken ourselves and fought against it. But since they said no, we can just concur and keep an eye on it so we can let you know what's happening. But
thank you.
And I don't have my glasses on, so somebody's going to read these.
I'm just reading. Yeah, I'm reading all of the comments, and I believe most of them you've answered, Bill. I mean, at this moment, no, there's nothing the Hamlet can do. Are they, in a sense, legally operating? Well, they weren't legally operating to begin with, but the counties, again, we have to really see what they do. They may just say, stop, let's not throw good money after bad. Let's go find another piece of property and move. Okay, that's an option. But until we begin to see what's going to happen, I'm pretty confident if somebody filed like a code enforcement complaint that this is operating and the county has said no, I don't think they're going to do anything until they see what this group's going to do. And
Right.
so
And again, that would have to happen 21 days after the next BCC business meeting, Board of County Commissioner business meeting, because that's when this will be officially adopted, is at the next Board of County Commissioner business meeting. And 21 days after that, before they have to do anything with LUBA. And if they don't do anything with that, then it's a code enforcement issue that if they don't do anything, it becomes a code enforcement issue 21 days after the next BCC board business meeting.
Okay, Bill, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And we're always around. You can always send us an email, board@beavercreek.org, if other questions or comments arise. So we'll certainly continue to support the educational process on this. All right, land use activity decision C was a temporary home for care renewal that we supported, and it was approved subject to conditions. There was D is exclusive farm use replacement dwelling. We also supported that with our own conditions, as long as the old house is removed and such. And it appears that that was approved subject to conditions. And then the final one, and you know, I was all over the county website and could not find this. This is the property north of Wilson, east of Beavercreek, south of Henrici, and west of Ferguson. It's the 56 acres that they requested to remove the historic overlay. And that went in front of the Board of County Commissioners on January 19th, but I could not just find it and I couldn't see the recommendation. So, and I don't know if they heard it because I know they had to hear from the Historic Overlay Committee. So maybe there isn't a decision at this point. The reason I wanted to bring this one up is I received a phone call that was forwarded from our illustrious social media director. And we had a long conversation. She wasn't in attendance at the Hamlet discussion on this application. And so I gave her an update on the historic overlay process, but what's the ultimate goal? They would like to change from rural residential farm forest 5 acre, which would absolutely allow them about 25 homes there if the historic overlay was removed, to actually 2 acres, what they'll be seeking, which then that would be a lot more homes, 26 or so. So a lot more, but I'm wrong, wait. 5 acre would be like 11 homes, sorry, and it'd be more like 26 on 2 acre. That's the next phase once the historic overlay is addressed. And then after that, it would be applying for a subdivision. So these, the neighbor that I chatted with had said that these folks live in the Washington area and they are developers. This was purchased to develop it. And so we'll keep our finger on the pulse on this to see as it moves through. You know, if they stay 5 acre and can do septic systems and can get water, can they do it? Yes. If they want a zone change to make it smaller, that's gonna be a real problem. I mean, our roads are already failing, and that would be a huge problem for, I'm pretty confident, this board as well as citizens in the area. So we will be paying really close attention to this, just to let you know. And I let Samantha know that, and she's going to inform all of her neighbors. So it's nice to see that getting spread. Okay, we're moving on. We have some reports. Cheryl, our treasurer, would you like to add anything to your treasurer's report that was on the agenda?
I have nothing to add to that.
Oh, thank you very much. All righty. Any questions? Not seeing any. Bill, would you like to share any wisdom with regards to transportation?
We have too much of it.
Yes.
Let's see. I want to jump back to the presentation we had at the first part of the meeting. This is done. That was done through the rural Clackamas County Road Fund, whatever it was. I chair that committee for the other side of it. This was done under safety, and we're working under congestion. So I chair up for congestion, so I knew a little bit about this, but not so much because it's a safety project rather than a congestion project. And I haven't heard much about that roundabout, but I'm really interested in that. At the higher level of the region, ODOT Region 1, ODOT Region 1 is consumed with tolling on I-205 and various pulls and motions and things, because Metro has a big say in what happens in this area, of course. And it looks like there may be a problem that Metro cannot come to an agreement without the R1 Act changing its bylaws. So there's a bylaws request so that we can let the, is it MTAC? I forget which of the bodies in Metro it is that wants to change this so that they can move ahead with having more say in the stuff, the tolling. And tolling is a hot topic. There are Bill Kennemer, our senator and the legislature, has introduced her bill, or is introducing a bill that would make voting on the appropriateness of a toll come before a toll would be implemented. We don't know where that is, but that's in the works. There's a community group, citizens who've called themselves the No Toll Army, and they are organizing to get a ballot measure on to prevent tolling without ODOT coming to the voters and asking for permission to do that, because they feel that it's, sort of ODOT's cruising over the top of them. And then there's a lot of federal money that is coming into Oregon, several $1 billion, that people are saying, well, let's use some of that for tolling, to alleviate tolling. And the other thing that's such a hassle for many people is that right now ODOT is only proposing to do tolling on 205 at the Abernathy Bridge and just in that area, not in the rest of the whole metro area. They're planning in the future sometime to toll I-5 and the interstate bridge crossing up in Portland. They're also planning at some point in the future to toll 205 as it crosses the Columbia as well. But all of that stuff is sort of out there in the future someplace. And that doesn't seem very fair to a lot of people, particularly in Clackamas County. So it's just, there's no decisions. There's just a lot of yelling is what I can say right now. And I'm keeping on top of it. Like I said, I'm on the Region 1 Area Council on Transportation, and I keep my ear to this ground there. And that's all I really want to say about that.
How about BCT, Bill?
BCT, what would you like to know about BCT?
Well, no more TV.
Right, that's true. Cable TV has gone away, but the reason that cable TV is going away is to get more bandwidth on our coaxial system, which is the old cable TV system, so that we can have better internet. In the meantime, before we have a plan, it's still sort of nebulous, but we have a plan to apply for grants from the federal government starting, I think, in February, or it's in March. I don't remember the date, but there's lots of, again, federal money in the infrastructure improvement plan, a lot of federal money, and particularly a lot of it focused on rural telecommunications companies. So BCT would like to have fiber to the home for everybody in Beavercreek. And that is a multi-million-dollar project. We'll need loans to do that. We'll need grants to do that. But that's our goal. But in the meantime, before we get to that, which was going to take years to get to, we're trying to get as much bandwidth as we can out of our existing coax system so that people can have as high a speed as they can. And there's some decent speeds there. I mean, 100 megabit speeds. It's not gigabit speed, but 100 megabits is really fast for most kinds of things. Of course, as more and more smart switches and smart refrigerators and smart washing machines come online, and smart lights and Alexa and Google Nest and all of that other stuff comes on, all of that consumes bandwidth. And it's not a lot in any one of them, but as you pile up more and more and more and more devices in your house, it starts using a lot of bandwidth, and we are just sort of running out of room to supply everybody with the bandwidth that they need. The other thing that I'll just mention is that the annual meeting for BCT is going to be in July 21st of 2022. And that means that we're going to start looking at our nominating committee is going to start finding people to propose. We have 2 openings coming up, and I can't remember which districts they are, but we have 2 openings coming up, but we will be looking for people for the nominating committee. And then if we don't have, I think that all the incumbent directors are willing to run again, but we may get other people who want to run and stuff like that. So that's going to happen through this early part of the summer. And that's all I have for BCT.
Awesome. Bill, thank you so much. Very nice to hear from that side of it. Mark, you want to talk about parks?
Sure.
Parks and Rec.
Tammy, before you move on, it looks like Dirk has his hand raised. I don't know if it's regarding Bill's
I
stuff.
missed it. Sorry, Dirk. Dirk, go. Yeah, if you'll bring him on, Jess. Great. Hey, Dirk.
Hey, Tammy, thank you. This question is for Bill.
Okay.
Bill, sorry, this is regarding the tolling. Something popped up online, and of course I can't find it right now. I don't know where it was, but it was about ODOT engaging the public with 4 scenarios on spending the federal money. I can't find it, but they apparently they want our opinion, which is funny because sometimes I feel like they never really care about our opinion. But nonetheless, they want our opinion on how they're going to spend the money, and one of them affected the tolling. So February, there's going to be some kind of a public engagement where they want our opinion, and they want us to tell them which scenario we like the most. So that's something we need to try to find and get involved with.
Yeah, and whenever I find out stuff like that, I always put it on our website. And now with Diana Kreitz, who is our media director, we're sharing back and forth between the website and Facebook. And so that if something occurs on the website, it'll be on Facebook, and you'll be able to look at it in many different ways. What we're thinking right now is Facebook is more immediate. People look at that and have an immediate bang, but a lot of the more detailed information is going to be on the website. So when I get the stuff about open houses from ODOT, I'll put it on the website, and it'll be up there in our blog so that you'll find it. And then I guess something else to sort of mention is that Diana and I and Tammy met to try to improve our website, to make it easier to find stuff, to make it a little bit more logical maybe to find stuff, because the website is the library. It's where you can find stuff, but it's not necessarily the librarian. I think this was Diana's analogy. The librarian is probably Facebook, who says, hey, look over there. There's something really interesting over there. And then the website is going to be where that really interesting thing is. So we're improving those things, and we will keep up to date when ODOT sends us something about community engagement. We'll put it on our website.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Dirk, so much for your question. Yes, very excited for a far user-friendly website. Okay, Mark, are you, oh, and Cindy runs chicken.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes. Co-chairs of the park, and as Bill said, the community development. So getting the community interested in what's going on in the Hamlet. One of the best ways to start that is having communication and activity at the corner park. And as you drive by right now, you probably see red lights. so that is to represent that Valentine's Day is coming up for all those. You're not going to forget it because you're driving by those lights all the time, and that will help on the family front, right?
Yeah.
And then St. Patrick's Day, so a couple weeks of green lights, that kind of thing. So we want to start getting input from the community, things that are important for the community that we can show off at the park. And we're starting to put together a couple subcommittees for dealing with some different ideas. We want some community input from all of you, all of our participants here, on the kind of things that the park should be looking at to have all of us to get together as the summer comes on, fresh air, sunshine, warm weather, and how we can really get involved with everything. So we're starting to do that, and we'll put a budget together so the Hamlet here can look at the budget and see what we're doing, and to also take a look at how we can do some fundraising to support the ideas and activities.
Excellent. Very exciting. Very exciting. I've already heard some really creative and fun ideas about what could be there to bring the community together. But we want to hear from all of you, please. So chat or email some different things. We used to have a lot of activities there, and unfortunately, due to a pandemic, it just couldn't be anymore. But I think that's the way to bring it together. So Cindy and Mark, we just can't thank you enough for leading this front, which is so vital for our community.
We'll get a lot of people together, Cheryl, Dave and Carla, John and Diane, and just, it's going to snowball. I just know it's going to take a lot of us. It's the community that helps to raise the park.
Beautiful. I like it. All righty. Beautiful. Thank you again, Mark and Cindy, so much. All right, let's move along to old business. Well, actually, the holiday tree lighting event. The board spent a bit of time last week kind of talking about what went very well, what could be improved upon, and maybe some different ideas. We would love to hear your input as well. And again, you can put it in the chat. You can email the board at beavercreek.org, and I'm confident the park committee will receive all that information. So I think next year it will be a very amazing event, and we've learned a lot on how to make it perfect. So very exciting holiday tree lighting. It was well attended. It was fun. It was different. And so I think that'll continue. Okay, B, Joe Matteo and Jessica have pictures. You're on, Joe. Joe is heading a very small subcommittee of one in regarding the Hamlet and Beavercreek signs. So go ahead, Joe.
So Tammy and I've been working on the signs here the last couple of weeks. We're in rough shape. Now this is the top one, of course. It's all been painted up and it's ready to go up. Do you have the second? Do you have the other one or not?
Yes, it's coming up.
Okay.
There we go.
And so here's the second one. The last thing that's left to do to this sign is we have to go over the yellow one more time on the opposite side. This side's already been done. We did it tonight. And we put reflective stuff in the lettering so it should shine up at nighttime also. And it'll be done probably tomorrow. Our next steps after this is we're going to come up with a day of when to drill the holes and put the posts up, and then concrete them in, and it'll take like a week to dry the concrete, and then we'll put the signs up. That'll be the easy part. Got me and Tammy, and then David, Tammy's significant other, are going to put these up, and so we should be good to go.
Great. We don't, this is super weather dependent. We don't want to be digging holes in the rain.
Right.
But it looks like we might have some good weather coming. Thank you, Jessica, for those signs. It's been super fun working on that project. So yeah, once we have the weather and can get the posts up and then the signs, you might, I just lost everybody.
We still see you.
You can. Okay. I must have hit a button by accident. Sorry. I've received several questions about where is it going? And do you want to take that, Joe?
So they're gonna go in front of the bar restaurant, over where the tractor is. So they have their own sign. Our sign, we believe, is gonna be just to the south of that, in that lawn area. We're gonna be meeting with Patrick and Barbara here in the next couple of days because it's supposed to start raining here Sunday or Monday. So during the rain time, I'm not farming. I'll go in there and meet with them and get Tammy, and we'll scope out the exact place and mark for the holes at that point.
So we have lots of equipment and supplies and all the things to do it. We will be picking on a couple people, just warning you, Kenny and Mark and others. Because there's just gonna, be just nice to have a couple guys there to help move a few things. But we truly will have a skidster and a traco, and we're not going to kill our backs doing this, but there's lots of pieces to it. So, and we're super excited. I cannot thank Joe enough for taking this project forward and driving it home. And he's been quite a Home Depot shopper, getting all the paints and stuff. So we're very, very excited and happy, and we'll keep you posted. And it'll be all over Facebook. So yay. If you didn't notice, right around the holidays, the Lending Library went up at the corner park. We want to sincerely thank Melissa and Dylan. And that was a gift to the community that they had made. Actually, Diana Kreitz was the one that painted it, the cute little flowers and characters on it. And so if you have a book to lend or would like to pick one up there, please feel free to do that. I've already heard the comment, we need a bigger one. So it sounds like it's being used, and it's so neat to get people there at the park. What is not on our agenda is number D, because I recently heard from Mike Besner, Transportation Director at the county. If you'll all recall, the vehicle registration fees for cars is $30 a year. That was not supposed to be on trailers, utility trailers, horse trailers, those sort of things, but it was added. And that it was added by the state. So we've been working really hard with the county, and it has now been officially approved by the Board of County Commissioners to lower that fee for trailers. I just want you to know, I asked for $1 a year, but what the committee was willing to do was $5. So it's not the best scenario, but it is a much better for those of us who own a dozen trailers. That's going to help us a lot. So they're going to make that happen pretty rapidly. They just let the state of Oregon know, Department of Transportation, and then they will drop that fee. So Hamlets do make a difference, you guys. Very happy that that finally came to fruition. Under new business, and this is really just to let our community know, and if you want to do some volunteering or dropping off some supplies, it would be wonderful. I did not realize that there's a program at the Beavercreek grade school called Backpack Buddies. And I understand it's at like all grade schools. And for children that are need food during the weekends. I thought the school provided that in a Backpack Buddies, but that isn't true. It's actually done through charities and often through local churches. Well, our 10 o'clock church is the one that supports the Beavercreek grade school. I have reached out to them because I received a very good question about who helps Karis grade school, since they're in our boundary. Thank you so much for asking that question. I haven't heard back yet, but I have asked. And so when they send this food home with the children, it needs to be shelf stable. So like milk that can be in a container that doesn't have to go in the refrigerator and things of that nature. There are some things they run pretty low on. And so I would really like for us to use our social media avenues when they're in need to let them know, to let the community know, so that you could either drop maybe some of those items off or maybe a donation. As you can imagine, over the course of the last couple of years, this has gotten pretty intense. There's a lot of children that are being helped. So just want you to be aware of the program and that we may be reaching out when support is needed. Okay, Next thing is, well, and we kind of talked about this. I threw on here Hamlet community during a pandemic. For 2 years, we've been hoping to get back to meeting in person at the Grange. Still not safe to do that. And I feel like we're actually becoming efficient on Zoom. Not that I hope we're here forever, but that's why I reached out to Mark and Cindy and said, I think in a pandemic, one of the best ways to promote community is our parks. It's a way that we can get together, with a way that we can plan some fun community events. But we also want to hear from all of you. If you have some ideas on how to promote community and to promote the identity of the Hamlet, we are a very large area. And so one of the things we'll want to do as we do community events in the park is to be sure that we really reach out to the Karis area, make sure that they feel welcome. And so that was just one of my ideas, but I would really like to hear from all of you other ideas about how, until we can get back in the Grange and have our super fun local meetings, other ways to promote. Okay, next thing, other business. Bill, you wanted to bring up My Shake, and I know one of our citizens will be very interested in here. Oh, Amy Manning. I think she'll really be interested in hearing. So please go.
Don't know if you can see this. There's an app called My Shake, and it's available. I just put something up on our website about it. It was built by the University of California at Berkeley, and it will provide earthquake information for California, Oregon, and Washington. And this happens to be the 322nd anniversary of the last Cascadia subduction event, the giant one, the big one, 322 years ago. So on this date, they have released this publicly for anybody. It's available. It's an app that you can download from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And what it does is it takes your phone and makes it a seismometer. So when it's just sitting there, you're not doing anything with it, it's a seismometer, and it will record and report a sudden shaking. And by having all of the phones all over the West Coast monitoring shaking, they can get a lot of insight into what's happening and where it's happening and how it might be spreading and how stuff like that. And also has, an ability to give you a warning code, a message if the shake's imminent and stuff like that. And it's got a lot of information about how to protect yourself in an earthquake. The basic idea is to drop because you don't want to stand up. You want to crawl under something, so you want to shelter, and then you want to hold on because everything's going to be moving around. So you try to grab something that you can hold on to underneath a table or something like that and protect yourself. So I wanted to make everybody aware of that. Like I said, I put that's up on our website now. There's a page that has links to go to the App Store and the Play Store to get the app. It has some really cool features. You can say where your area is, and it puts a 10-mile square area around you. So it's not really identifying where you are, and all the information is completely confidential and anonymized. So it's not like you're going to be sharing any kind of information that people could follow you on anything for. So it's just really a great application. And
what's the app name again?
It's called My Shake, MyShake.
Wonderful.
Not chocolate or vanilla or strawberry.
Oh, darn. And I didn't mean to be picking on Amy, but Amy Manning did suggest that we have maybe a series of guest speakers this year that just talks about emergency preparedness from the high level down to the detail. I think it's a great idea. I've already connected with the county, and they're putting together some speakers for us this year. So, and that's why I was picking on Amy. I like picking on her anyway. And Mark.
Yeah, like just following up on what Bill says, I've also got an app, and I deal with the work zone everywhere from Astoria with crews through Hillsborough, everywhere else that goes. So getting guest speakers, yes. I have an app for the earthquake, so real time, I've got it set so anything over 4 And several weeks ago, we were getting a lot off the Oregon coast,
Oh, that's right.
all the way up to 5s, between 4s and 5s. So it was, I had all of our crews on going through training, going through toolbox topics. So they were all thinking about it and also putting together go bags, which is something that they should talk about when we get guest speakers here.
Great.
Because if you live in Molalla I have several guys who live on Upper Highland and Lower Highland roads and work in Hillsboro, how long will it take you to get home? And with my app, as soon as I get something that has got of any concern and it's real time, so I can let them know what's going on and what buildings to get out of, open spaces, and how many bridges are you going to cross to make it home? And do you have the right shoes? Because your vehicle's not going to get across certain bridges, but you might be able to walk across them. Don't be surprised if it takes you a week to get home.
Wow.
And how's your first day?
Wow.
And also,
That's great. I'm looking forward to that series, and I think that would be a wonderful community project. And maybe if we do something in person, it could be done in the parks. So wonderful. All right, let's keep moving along. I know it's getting very late. Really quick Grange update. They are still doing the Saturday morning breakfasts, I think through June, and then they pick it back up in September, 8 to 11. And there's not a lot going on at the Grange, but they are keeping the breakfasts going. And on the Planning Commission, actually, Katie brought it up, middle housing. Well, what is that? And that's not very concerning to our area. Most of us are not in the urban growth boundary. It's only in the urban growth boundary. And for Clackamas County, it's those areas that are unincorporated. But what is middle housing? Well, if you have a piece of property and you have a single family home and it fits in that urban growth boundary, you can, if you have enough space, you can have a duplex, you can have a triplex, you can have a quadplex, and you can have cottage clusters. It's kind of based on how many extra square feet you have. It's allowed. You still have to go through all the same process as building a single family home, getting your permits and all of it, but it is a serious effort to go within the urban growth boundary and look for ways to get it more dense so that we have more homes, they're more affordable and more rentals and stuff like that. So quite a process. We spent several hours this week at the Planning Commission level going through and looking at what the planners are suggesting. There's a lot of topics regarding sidewalks and parking and all those sorts of things. I think the Planning Commission is doing an exceptional job on giving the planners good advice. It's a hard topic, but it's an important topic. So that's what middle housing was all about. And I'm always happy to answer questions regarding that. And honestly, that's all we have for this evening. Next meeting will be February 23rd, again via Zoom. We're hoping to have 1 or 2 guest speakers to talk about the tolling. Probably just more, I don't know that it should be pro or con, but the facts, the real true facts of where it is. And Bill's giving me a hand with finding the right person to really speak to us on that topic. And Bill's given us a lot of information, but it would be nice to have somebody that's like on a committee that's super in the know and working on it. Other than that, before we go, are there any questions, comments? I cannot thank everyone enough for being here. It's just so exciting to have so many people and so many wonderful comments and questions, and the chat I could be entertained all night just on that. So thank you for your very kind comments. And we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in February. And that's all I've got. So we're going to adjourn the meeting. I'm sorry it's so late at 9:18. Again, thank you all for coming and have a good evening and good night.
Thanks, everybody.